The sun hung low over Cheyenne village, casting golden rays across the rolling fields, where the scent of wildflowers mingled with the earth. It was the day before my wedding to Ryan Scott, a man I once believed loved me. The village buzzed with preparations. Red lanterns swayed from doorways, and the rhythmic clatter of pots echoed from my family's courtyard. I stood near the gate, smoothing the hem of my dress, my heart a tangled knot of anticipation and unease. I will become Mrs. Scott tomorrow, binding my fate to Ryan's. But a shadow lingered in my mind, a whisper of something I couldn't yet name. Emily! Emily Carter! The shout snapped me from my thoughts. Crystal, my neighbor from the house next door, sprinted toward me, her face flushed with indignation. Her braid bounced wildly as she skidded to a halt, clutching my arm. I saw Ryan Scott and Lily Ray sneaking into the woods together. They were laughing, chatting like lovers, holding hands as if no one could see. "You're marrying him tomorrow, Emily. How dare he? It's shameless." Her words hit like a thunderclap, each one sharper than the last. Ryan, my fiancé, with Lily Ray, his childhood sweetheart? The image burned into my mind. Ryan's sly grin, Lily's coy glance. My pulse raced, not with shock, but with a strange, searing clarity. I gripped the gate, my knuckles whitening. Crystal's eyes searched mine, expecting tears or rage, but I stood frozen, my breath shallow. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a crack in the fabric of time, a moment I'd lived before. My heart pounded, not from Crystal's news, but from the truth flooding back. I wasn't just Emily Carter, the village girl about to wed. I was reborn, thrust back to this day by a karmic curse woven from my dying hatred in another life. In that life, Ryan's betrayal had shattered me, my family, and my world. His whispered words, "Emily, you killed my Lily," had haunted my final moments as I bled out, my skull cracked against a hospital wall. The gods, or perhaps my fury, had granted me this second chance to rewrite my fate. "Emily, are you listening?" Crystal's voice cut through the haze. "You need to see for yourself. They're still in the woods, near the old banyan tree. Go now." She tugged at my sleeve, her face a mix of pity and outrage. I nodded slowly, my mind racing. In my previous life, Lily had fled south the day our engagement was announced, her departure breaking Ryan's heart. He'd married me reluctantly, his love for her festering into hatred that destroyed us all. But now, Ryan was with Lily, the day before our wedding. This wasn't the timeline I knew. A chill crept up my spine. Had Ryan been reborn too? Did he know I was no longer the naive girl he'd deceived? I forced a smile, though my chest tightened. "Thank you, Crystal. I'll handle it." My voice was steady, but inside, a storm brewed. Crystal hesitated, then nodded, retreating to her porch, her eyes still fixed on me. I turned toward the woods, the path to the banyan tree etched in my memory. Each step felt heavier, as if the earth sensed the weight of what would come. The village faded behind me, children's laughter, the clink of wedding preparations, all drowned by the pulse in my ears. I wasn't walking to confront Ryan, but stepping into a battle I'd lost once. The woods loomed ahead, their shadows swallowing the daylight. I paused at the edge, my hand brushing the rough bark of a pine. In my past life, Ryan had used my family's wealth to build an empire, only to turn it against us. My father rotted in prison, my mother leapt from a skyscraper, and my sister Clara was sold to traffickers. Ryan had drugged me, locked me in an asylum, and spat venom as I crumbled. The karmic curse had rewound time, but why was Ryan with Lily? What was he planning? I clenched my fists, my nails biting into my palms. Whatever his scheme, I wouldn't be his victim again. This time, Ryan Scott would learn what it meant to cross Emily Carter. The woods stood silent before me, their shadows stretching like fingers across the path to the banyan tree. My heart thundered, Crystal's words, Ryan and Lily sneaking off together, echoing in my mind. But it wasn't just betrayal that rooted me to the spot. It was the flood of memories from another life. A life where Ryan Scott had torn my world apart. I wasn't just Emily Carter, the village girl set to marry tomorrow. I was a woman reborn, cursed and blessed by my dying hatred to relive this pivotal day. The air felt heavy, as if time pressed against me, urging me to remember the cost of my first life's mistakes. In that life, I had loved Ryan with a blind, reckless devotion. He was the village charmer, with a crooked smile and promises of forever. I thought it was love when he gave up his childhood sweetheart, Lily Ray, to follow me to the city. I was wrong. He'd only wanted my family's wealth, my father's connections, my uncle's influence. With their support, Ryan built a $1 billion real estate empire, his name blazing across skyscrapers. I stood by him, proud, naive, believing we were building a future together. But every smile hid a lie. Behind my back, he mourned Lily, who had gone south and become a wealthy man's mistress, only to die in childbirth. Ryan blamed me as if I'd stolen her from him. The truth unraveled in fragments, each one a knife to my heart. Ryan had been drugging me for years, slipping sedatives into my tea, turning me into a trembling, paranoid wreck. He whispered to doctors, to neighbors, that I was unstable, paving the way to have me committed. My family, once pillars of strength, crumbled under his schemes. My father, a respected official, was framed for bribery and sentenced to life in prison, his eyes hollow as they led him away. To shield my sister Clara and me from the crushing debt Ryan orchestrated, my mother took on every loan, every shame. I can still see her standing on the ledge of the 39th floor, her silhouette against the city's glow. She didn't look back before she jumped. Clara, my bright, fierce little sister, was the final blow. Before I died, I overheard a nurse's gossip. Ryan had sold Clara to traffickers in northern Myanmar, her fate sealed in some distant hell. The betrayal was complete. Locked in a psychiatric ward, I was a ghost of myself, my mind frayed by drugs and despair. Ryan visited one last time, leaning close, his breath hot against my ear. "Emily Carter, you killed my Lily," he hissed. "Everything, your father's ruin, your mother's death, Clara's suffering, is karma for you and your cursed family." His words were venom, each sinking deeper until I could no longer bear. In total despair, I bashed my head against the wall, blood pooling as my vision faded. I died with my eyes wide open, hatred burning brighter than pain. Now standing at the edge of the woods, those memories crashed over me like a tidal wave. My knees buckled and I sank to the ground, clutching the earth. Tears stung my eyes, not for Ryan's betrayal today, but for the family I'd lost, the sister I'd failed. Clara's laughter, her braids bouncing as she ran through our garden, haunted me. I'd been too weak, too trusting, to save her then. The pain was raw, a wound reopened by this second chance. But with it came a fire, a resolve that steadied my trembling hands. The karmic curse that brought me back wasn't just a gift, but a command. I wouldn't just survive Ryan Scott. I'd destroy him. I rose, wiping my face, the dirt smearing across my cheeks like war paint. Ryan thought he could play me again, that I was still the lovesick girl who'd begged my uncle to secure him a city job. But he didn't know I'd been reborn, that I carried the scars of his crimes in my soul. Crystal's warning about Lily meant something had changed. In my first life, Lily fled south the day our engagement was announced, her absence fueling Ryan's resentment. Now she was here, conspiring with him. A chilling thought struck me. What if Ryan was reborn too? What if he knew this day was his chance to rewrite his fate, take my dowry, and run with Lily? The possibility ignited my anger, but also my cunning. I straightened, my gaze fixed on the path to the banyan tree. If Ryan thought he could outsmart me, he was gravely mistaken. I'd let him weave his web, let him think he'd won. Then I'd turn his greed against him, making him and Lily choke on their lies. I'd fight for my father, mother, and Clara. This time, I'd protect my family and my future. Ryan Scott and Lily Ray would rot together, and I'd rise from their ashes. With a final, steadying breath, I stepped into the woods to face the truth and claim my revenge. The woods enveloped me, their canopy blotting out the late afternoon sun. Twigs snapped under my feet as I crept toward the old banyan tree, its gnarled roots sprawling like a giant's fingers. My pulse thundered, each beat a reminder of the life I'd lost and the revenge I now sought. Crystal's warning, Ryan Scott and Lily Ray sneaking off together, burned in my mind, but the weight of my reborn knowledge drove me forward. Ryan had destroyed me once, and now, with Lily by his side, he was plotting again. I had to know his plan, to turn his betrayal into his downfall. The air grew cooler, heavy with the scent of moss and earth. Voices drifted through the trees, low and conspiratorial. I crouched behind a thicket, my breath shallow, and peered through the leaves. There they were, under the banyan's shadow. Ryan, his lean frame slouched against the trunk, and Lily, her dark hair glinting as she paced. Ryan's voice was smooth, laced with the charm that had once fooled me. "Lily, you have to trust me. I'll marry Emily tomorrow, but it's you I love. Her dowry, 28 gold bars, $50,000, and her grandmother's jewelry is our ticket out. We'll be set for life. Lily stopped pacing, her hands twisting the hem of her blouse. Her face, usually bright with confidence, was taut with unease. Ryan, this is madness, she said, her voice trembling. You're marrying another woman. What happens when her family finds out? My reputation will be ruined. No one in the village will look at me the same if we're caught. Her eyes darted toward the path, as if expecting someone to emerge. I bit my lip, surprised by her hesitation. In my past life, I'd known Lily only as Ryan's lost love, a ghost he mourned. Now I saw a woman torn, her ambition warring with fear. Ryan stepped closer, gripping her shoulders. His smile was predatory, his tone coaxing. Lily, think about it. Emily's family is wealthy, but she's naive. I'll go through the ceremony, get her drunk during the wedding games, and take the dowry while she's passed out. It's just a feast, not a legal marriage. You'll head to the county and find a cheap motel near the train station. I'll meet you with the goods that night and we'll elope south. From there, we'll leave the country and start fresh. I'll build a business, become a boss, and you'll be my queen. Lily's eyes widened, a flicker of greed mingling with her doubt. And Emily? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What happens to her? Ryan laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent a shiver down my spine. She'll wake up married into my family, stuck caring for my parents while we're long gone. Her dowry will be ours, and she'll be a widow in name, tied to the Scots forever. He leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. Don't worry about her. She's nothing compared to you. Lily pulled away, her jaw tight. It's not just Emily, Ryan. What about your parents? You're their only son. Her voice held a trace of accusation, as if testing him. Ryan's expression hardened, his patience thinning. They're a burden, Lily. Emily will handle them. That's her role now. Lily's lips parted, but she said nothing, her gaze dropping to the ground. I clenched my fists, my nails biting into my palms. Rage surged through me, hot and unrelenting. Ryan wasn't just stealing my dowry. He was planning to shackle me to his family's burdens, to leave me a hollow shell while he and Lily lived free. I studied Lily, her shoulders hunched, her fingers still twisting her blouse. She wasn't the confident seductress I'd imagined. Her hesitation and fear of losing her reputation revealed a woman trapped by the village's judgment, by her precarious place in it. She wanted the wealth Ryan promised, but the cost weighed on her. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. Then I remembered Ryan's venom in my past life, his claim that I'd killed Lily. Whatever her doubts, she chose to betray me and profit from my ruin. Pity evaporated, replaced by a steely resolve. I shifted, a twig snapping under my weight. Ryan's head whipped toward the sound, his eyes narrowing. What was that? He hissed. Lily froze, her hand flying to her mouth. I held my breath, pressing myself against the thicket, my heart hammering. Seconds stretched into eternity, the silence deafening. Finally, Ryan shrugged, turning back to Lily. Just a squirrel. Come on, we need to plan the details. Lily nodded, but her eyes lingered on the trees, wary. I exhaled silently, my mind racing. Ryan's plan was clear. Marry me, steal my dowry, and flee with Lily, leaving me to rot. But he didn't know I was reborn, that I'd heard every word. His greed would be his undoing. I'd let him think he'd won, let him take the dowry, then expose him to the village, the police, the world. Lily, too, would face the consequences of her choice. As I crept back toward the town, the banyan tree looming behind me, I felt a fire ignite within. Ryan Scott and Lily Ray thought they could break me again. They were wrong. This time, I'd be the one to strike. The village lights twinkled in the distance as I stumbled out of the woods, my chest heaving from the weight of what I'd heard. Ryan's cold laughter, Lily's trembling voice, their plot to steal my dowry and leave me shackled to a hollow life, it churned in my mind like a storm. The path back to my family's house was familiar, yet each step felt alien, as if the ground knew I was no longer the Emily Carter who'd walked it yesterday. I was reborn, carrying the scars of a past life, and now, armed with Ryan's plan, I had a chance to rewrite my fate. But first, I needed to face the pain that fueled my fire. I slipped through the back gate, the courtyard quiet except for the faint clinking of dishes from the kitchen. My family was preparing for tomorrow's wedding, oblivious to my uncovered betrayal. I climbed the stairs to my room, locking the door behind me. The familiar space, my quilted bed, the wooden dresser, the photo of Clara and me laughing in the garden, felt like a relic of a life I'd already lost. I sank to the floor, my back against the door, and let the memories of my past life flood in, unfiltered, raw. In that life, I'd been blind, consumed by love for Ryan. I'd seen his distance, his silences, as pride, not deceit. I thought we were partners when he built his empire with my family's support, but he'd been plotting, poisoning me with drugs that frayed my mind, turning me into a shadow of myself. The worst was what he did to my family. My father's arrest for bribery, a lie orchestrated by Ryan, left him broken, his once kind eyes dulled by shame. My mother's suicide, her body plummeting from the 39th floor to escape the debt Ryan piled on us, haunted my dreams. And Clara, my little sister, with her fierce spirit and quick smile, was sold to traffickers in northern Myanmar. I'd overheard it in the asylum, a nurse's cruel gossip, just before I ended my life. Tears streamed down my face, hot and unrelenting. I clutched my knees, my sobs muffled against them. Clara's face flashed in my mind, her braids bouncing as she chased me through the fields, her voice calling, "Emily, wait for me!" I'd failed her, too trusting to see Ryan's true nature. The guilt was a blade, twisting deeper with every memory. My mother's final glance, my father's handcuffed wrists, Clara's unknown fate, they were my fault, my weakness. The pain threatened to swallow me, to drag me back to the despair of that asylum wall, but I wasn't that Emily anymore. I wiped my tears, my hands trembling but resolute. The karmic curse that brought me back wasn't just a second chance, but a reckoning. Ryan thought he could play me again, using my dowry to fund his escape with Lily. He didn't know I was reborn, that I'd heard his scheme under the banyan tree. His words, leaving me to care for his parents, stealing my future, ignited a fire in my chest. I wouldn't just survive his betrayal. I'd turn it against him, make him and Lily pay for every ounce of pain they'd caused. I stood pacing the room, my mind sharpening. Ryan's plan relied on my ignorance, my trust. But I wasn't the naive girl he expected. I'd let him think he'd won, let him take the dowry, then expose him to the village, the law, everyone. Lily, too, would face the consequences of her greed, her willingness to ruin me for a promise of wealth. But this wasn't just about revenge, it was about protecting my family, saving Clara, and honoring my parents' sacrifices. I stopped at the window, staring at the moonlit fields. Clara was in the city, studying, unaware of the danger Ryan posed. I'd ensure her safety, no matter the cost. A plan began to form, precise and ruthless. I'd go to my uncle tomorrow, reveal Ryan's plot, and secure Clara's protection. I'd play along with the wedding and let Ryan dig his grave. The dowry, gold bars, cash, jewelry, would be his bait, and I'd use it to trap him. My heart steadied, the fire within burning brighter than my grief. I wasn't fighting alone. I'd become unbreakable for my father's honor, my mother's memory, and Clara's future. I opened the photo frame on my dresser, touching Clara's smiling face. "I won't fail you again," I whispered. The tears had dried, replaced by a fierce determination. Ryan Scott and Lily Ray thought they could break me, but they'd underestimated the woman I'd become. Tomorrow I'd begin dismantling their world, piece by piece. With a final glance at the moon, I turned from the window, ready to face the dawn of my revenge. The first light of dawn crept through my window, painting the room in soft gold. I hadn't slept, my mind racing with the plan that had crystallized in the night's quiet hours. Overheard under the banyan tree, Ryan Scott's betrayal was a wound, but it was also a weapon. His scheme to steal my dowry and elope with Lily Ray would be his undoing, and I'd ensure it. But this wasn't just about revenge. It was about protecting my family, especially Clara, whose fate in my past life haunted me. Today, I'd forge alliances to outsmart Ryan and secure our future. I dressed quickly, pulling on a simple blouse and jeans, my resolve as steady as the morning breeze. Downstairs, my mother was already up, kneading dough for the wedding feast, her hands moving with mechanical precision. She didn't know about Ryan's plot yet. I'd tell her tonight, after I'd set things in motion. For now, I grabbed my bike from the shed and pedaled toward town, the cool air stinging my cheeks. The road to my uncle's house was lined with rice paddies, their green tips swaying in the early light, a reminder of the life I was fighting to preserve. My county official uncle lived in a modest brick house on the edge of town. He'd been a lifeline in my past life, securing me a city job and, at my pleading, one for Ryan. That trust had cost us everything. Now, I'd use his influence differently. I knocked, and he opened the door, his face creasing with surprise. "Emily? You're up early. Wedding nerves?" His warm smile faltered as he saw my expression. I stepped inside, the scent of tea and old books grounding me. "Uncle, I need to talk. It's about Ryan." Seated at his kitchen table, I recounted everything. Ryan and Lily's meeting in the woods, their plan to marry me for the dowry, 28 gold bars, $50,000, and grandmother's jewelry, then get me drunk and elope. My uncle's face darkened, his teacup clattering against the saucer. "That snake. I'll cancel his job offer this instant." "No one betrays my niece." His anger was a comfort, but I raised a hand, my voice calm but firm. "Not yet, uncle. Wait 3 days. I want him to think he's won. Let him take the dowry, then we'll trap him. The police will handle the rest." He leaned back, studying me. "You've changed, Emily. There's a fire in you I haven't seen before." I met his gaze, my heart steady. "I've learned what trust can cost. But there's more. Clara, she's studying in the city, right? Please bring her home and keep her safe. Ryan's dangerous, and I won't risk her." My voice cracked, memories of Clara's fate in my past life, sold to traffickers, tightening my throat. My uncle nodded, his expression softening. "I'll call her school today and arrange for her to stay with us. She'll be safe, Emily, I promise." Relief washed over me, but I wasn't done. I took a deep breath, the weight of my subsequent decision settling in. "There's one more thing. You mentioned the Air Force is recruiting pilots in the county." "I want to sign up." My uncle's eyes widened, his teacup pausing midair. "The Air Force? Emily, you were set on a city job, on marrying Ryan. Why this now?" I looked past him, to a faded poster on the wall. A jet soaring through clouds, a symbol of freedom. In my past life, I'd ignored my dreams, tying my future to Ryan's. Not this time. "It's not about Ryan," I said, my voice steady. "In the village, I've seen how people like us are bound by tradition, by men like Ryan who think they can control us. The Air Force is my chance to break free, serve my country, and be more than a wife or victim. I want to fly, Uncle, to protect others like I couldn't protect my family before." My words carried the weight of my past life's failures, but also a spark of hope. He stared at me, then smiled, pride replacing his doubt. "You're your father's daughter, Emily. I'll help you register today." We walked to the county office, where I filled out the Air Force application, my hand steady as I signed my name. The recruiter, a stern woman with sharp eyes, nodded approvingly. "We need women like you, Miss Carter. Training's tough, but you've got the look of someone who won't quit." Her words ignited a flicker of purpose in me, a path beyond revenge. As we left, my uncle clapped my shoulder. "You're doing something big, Emily. I'm proud." I nodded, but my mind was already on the next step, returning home to prepare for the wedding trap. The ride back was lighter, the morning sun warming my face. Clara would be safe, my future was taking shape, and Ryan's downfall was imminent. I'd play the role of the trusting bride, let him think he'd outsmarted me. Tomorrow his greed would lead him straight to ruin. I'd fight for Clara, my parents, and the woman I was becoming. Ryan Scott and Lily Ray had no idea I was about to unleash the storm. The morning of my wedding dawned crisp and clear, the village alive with the hum of celebration. Red banners fluttered from every house, and the scent of roasted peanuts and steamed buns wafted through the air. I stood in my room, staring at my reflection in the mirror, my white dress starkly contrasting with the fire in my eyes. Today, I'd marry Ryan Scott, but not as the naive bride he expected. I was reborn, armed with his treacherous plan, steal my dowry and elope with Lily Ray, and I'd turn his greed into a trap. My heart ached with the weight of my past life's losses, but it also burned with purpose. This was the day I'd begin to reclaim my future. Downstairs, my mother fussed over the dowry trunks, 10 heavy boxes packed with 28 gold bars, $50,000 in cash, and my grandmother's heirloom jewelry. Her hands trembled, not from excitement, but from the truth I'd shared last night. Ryan's plot to betray me had left her furious, her eyes blazing as she vowed to confront him. I'd stopped her, my voice steady. "Let me handle it, Mama. He'll pay, but we need to be smart." She'd nodded, her trust in me a silent strength. As she adjusted my veil, Her gaze held a mix of pride and worry. "Be careful, Emily," she whispered. I squeezed her hand, a silent promise. The courtyard buzzed as Ryan arrived with his entourage, his charming smile masking the deceit I knew too well. His eyes lit up at the dowry trunks, greed flickering beneath his feigned affection. "Emily, you look stunning," he said, taking my hand. I smiled, my stomach twisting, but my facade was flawless. "Thank you, Ryan. Let's make today unforgettable." My words were honeyed, but my mind was sharp, replaying the plan I'd set with my uncle. The dowry was bait, the wedding a stage, and Ryan's downfall the finale. We rode to the Scott house in a decorated cart, villagers cheering as firecrackers popped. I sat beside Ryan, my heart a tight knot of resolve and buried grief. In my past life, this day had been my dream, a step toward a future with the man I loved. Now I saw it for what it was, a lie that had cost me everything. My father's imprisonment, my mother's suicide, Clara's horrific fate, they flashed in my mind, each memory a spur to my determination. I glanced at Ryan, his hand resting casually on mine, unaware I was no longer his pawn. For Clara, safe now thanks to my uncle's efforts, I'd play this role perfectly. At the Scott house, the ceremony began, a blur of rituals and laughter. Mrs. Scott, Ryan's mother, beamed, her eyes darting to the dowry trunks now stacked in the courtyard. The villagers danced, their joy contrasting with the storm brewing within me. As the feast wound down, Ryan's friends arrived with bottles of strong liquor, their grins sly. "Time for wedding games," one shouted, pouring me a cup. I remembered this moment from my past life, Ryan's allies getting me drunk to please my family, unaware I was immune to alcohol, a quirk I'd kept secret. This time, I'd use it. I raised the cup, pretending to sip, my lips barely touching the rim. The liquor's sharp scent stung my nose, but I smiled, feigning a giggle. "Oh, it's strong," I slurred, swaying slightly. Ryan watched, his eyes narrowing with satisfaction. After a few more sips, I clutched my head, stumbling toward the bridal chamber. "I need to rest," I mumbled, collapsing onto the embroidered bed, my breathing slow and deliberate. The room emptied, the laughter fading as Ryan's friends retreated. I lay still, my senses sharp, waiting for his move. Ryan's footsteps returned, cautious and deliberate. He nudged my shoulder, his voice low. "Emily, you awake?" I didn't stir, my body limp. He chuckled, a sound that sent a chill down my spine. "Perfect." I heard the creak of the dowry trunks opening, the rustle of bags as he stuffed them with gold, cash, and jewelry. His voice dripped with disdain. "Emily Carter, this is compensation for what you did to Lily in my last life. You ruined us, but not this time." My heart raced, his words confirming my fear. Ryan was reborn, carrying memories of his past life. I kept my eyes closed, every muscle tense as he worked, the bag zipped shut, heavy with my family's wealth. Ryan paused by the bed, his shadow looming. "You'll wake up as Scott, tied to my parents, while Lily and I start over. Enjoy your karma." His words were a blade, but I held my composure, my plan hinging on his arrogance. The window creaked as he climbed out, the bags thumping softly against the sill. Silence followed, broken only by the distant hum of the village. I opened my eyes, breathing steadily, and rose from the bed. The trap was set, and Ryan had taken the bait. The bridal chamber was silent, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and burnt candles. I stood by the open window, the night breeze cool against my skin, as Ryan's footsteps faded into the darkness. He'd taken the dowry, gold bars, cash, my grandmother's jewelry, believing he'd outsmarted me. His spiteful letter lay on the desk, a final taunt blaming my family's power for his betrayal. My fingers trembled as I picked it up, the words a bitter echo of my past life's pain. "Emily Carter, you forced me into this," it read, "but Lily is my heart. You'll be Mrs. Scott, a widow, while we live free." Rage surged, but I steadied myself. This was no time for weakness. Ryan's escape was the bait, and my counterstrike was ready. I held the letter over the flickering dragon and phoenix candles, watching it curl and blacken, its ashes scattering like my old dreams. In my past life, Ryan's betrayal had shattered me, leaving my family in ruins, my father jailed, my mother dead, my sister Clara sold to traffickers. The memory of Clara's laughter, her small hand in mine, tightened my throat. I'd failed her then, but not now. Clara was safe, thanks to my uncle's promise to bring her home. That knowledge fueled me as I moved, swift and silent, to execute the next step of my plan. Ryan thought he'd won, but underestimated a reborn woman's wrath. I slipped out of the chamber, climbing over the low wall behind the Scott house, my wedding dress catching briefly on the stones. The village slept, its lanterns dim, but my heart raced with purpose. I'd spent the night before preparing, writing notices that would expose Ryan's crimes. Now I moved through the shadows, pasting them across the Scots Gate and every prominent wall in Cheyenne Village. Each poster, in bold ink, detailed Ryan's deceit, his affair with Lily Ray, his theft of my dowry, his plan to abandon me on our wedding night. They declared that Ryan Scott was a thief and a fraud who fled with Lily Ray and the Carter family's wealth. As I worked, pinning the last notice to a tree by the village square, a wave of emotion hit me. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my voice, my dignity. In my past life, Ryan had silenced me, drugging me into a haze, locking me in an asylum where my cries went unheard. Now, I was shouting the truth for all to hear. Tears pricked my eyes, not from sadness, but from the weight of standing tall after so much loss. My parents' sacrifices, Clara's stolen future. They were with me, urging me forward. I wiped my face, the ink smudging on my fingers like a badge of defiance. Dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. I returned home, slipping into my room to change out of the wedding dress. Its white folds are a reminder of my role. As I pulled on a simple sweater, the village began to stir. Shouts echoed from the Scots street, voices rising in shock and anger. I stepped onto our porch, my mother joining me, her face grim but resolute. "They've seen the posters," she said, her hand gripping mine. I nodded, my pulse quickening. The trap was springing shut. By mid-morning, a crowd gathered outside the Scott house, their murmurs a growing storm. Crystal, my neighbor, pushed to the front, her voice sharp. "I saw Ryan and Lily in the woods yesterday, holding hands and plotting. Emily's posters are actual." Her words ignited the villagers, their faces twisting with disbelief and outrage. Mrs. Scott emerged, her eyes wild, clutching a torn poster. "Lies! My son would never do this!" she shrieked, but her voice faltered under the crowd's scrutiny. Tina, Ryan's sister, hovered behind her, pale and silent, her usual bravado gone. I stood at the crowd's edge, my heart pounding with triumph and lingering pain. Exposing Ryan was justice, but it also reopened old wounds. His whispered taunts in the asylum, blaming me for Lily's death, for his failures. I'd loved him once, poured my heart into a future he'd poisoned. Now, I was dismantling his lies, but the cost of my past trust lingered, a quiet ache beneath my resolve. My mother's hand tightened on mine, grounding me. "You did right, Emily," she murmured. I nodded, straightening. This was only the beginning. The posters were just the first strike. My uncle had reported the dowry's bank certificate as lost, alerting the police to watch the credit union. Reborn and arrogant, Ryan would try to cash it, unaware of the net closing around him. Lily, too, would face the consequences of her greed. As the villagers' voices grew louder, demanding answers from the Scots, I felt a surge of power. Ryan thought he could escape with my family's wealth, leaving me to rot. But I was no longer his victim. I was Emily Carter, reborn, and I'd make sure the world knew his shame. The sun climbed higher over Cheyenne Village, its light glinting off the dew-soaked posters plastered across the Scots Gate. Inked in bold strokes, my words screamed Ryan's betrayal, his affair with Lily Ray, his theft of my dowry, his flight from our wedding. The crowd outside the Scott house swelled, their voices rising in shock and anger. I stood at the edge, my mother's hand in mine, my heart a storm of triumph and buried pain. This was more than revenge, it was justice, a public reckoning for the man who'd destroyed my family in another life. Yet, as the villagers' outrage grew, I felt the weight of my past wounds, raw and aching beneath my resolve. Mrs. Scott pushed through the crowd, her face flushed with defiance. She clutched a torn poster, her voice shrill. "These are lies! My Ryan would never steal, never betray his bride." Her eyes darted to me, accusing, desperate. The villagers murmured, some nodding, swayed by the Scots' local roots. Ryan and Lily had grown up here, their childhood bond a village legend, while I was the outsider, the city girl who'd swept in with wealth. For a moment, doubt flickered in the crowd. Had Emily Carter, with her wealthy family, forced Ryan into a loveless marriage? The accusation stung, echoing Ryan's taunts from my past life. In that life, he'd blamed me for Lily's death, for his own choices, drugging me until I doubted my mind. My father's imprisonment, my mother's leap from the 39th floor, Clara's sale to traffickers. They were my fault, he'd hissed, my karma. The Scots were twisting the truth again, painting me as the villain. I clenched my mother's hand, my throat tight with the memory of my silence in that asylum, my voice stolen. Not this time. I'd fought too hard to be heard. My parents stepped forward, their presence a wall of strength. My father, his voice booming, addressed the crowd. "You dare call my daughter a liar?" Ryan Scott married Emily, stole her dowry, gold, cash, heirlooms, and ran off with Lily Ray on their wedding night. Her eyes blazing, my mother ripped the red cloth off the Scots' bride price, revealing its pathetic contents. Rice cakes, steamed buns, and a handwritten IOU for 2,000 yuan. "This is what the Scots gave us," she shouted. "They took our wealth and left Emily abandoned, yet they claim her dowry as theirs." The crowd gasped, their murmurs turning to jeers. A villager, Old Man Chen, shook his head. If Ryan loved Lily, why marry Emily at all? He wanted the dowry, that's why. Crystal, my neighbor, nodded fiercely. "I saw them in the woods, plotting. Emily's posters tell the truth." The tide shifted, the village's loyalty to the Scots crumbling under the weight of evidence. Mrs. Scott's bravado faltered, her shoulders slumping. Ryan's sister, Tina, tried to speak, but the crowd's outrage drowned her voice. I watched, my heart pounding with a mix of vindication and sorrow. Exposing the Scots was a victory, but it stirred memories of my past life's isolation, when no one believed my cries against Ryan's lies. I'd stood alone then, my family broken, my sister Clara lost. Now Clara was safe, thanks to my uncle, but the ache of those losses lingered, a quiet grief beneath my strength. I squeezed my mother's hand, drawing courage from her presence. This public reckoning wasn't just for me, it was for them, for the family I'd failed before. Mr. Scott, silent until now, stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Emily's married into our family. The dowry belongs to the Scots, no matter what Ryan did." His words were desperate, clinging to tradition. My father laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Your son stole from us, abandoned my daughter, and you think you can keep her wealth? We're taking it back." At his signal, our relatives surged into the Scott courtyard, hauling out the dowry trunks, every gold bar, every jewel. The villagers cheered, their jeers drowning Mrs. Scott's protests. As the trunks were loaded onto our cart, I felt a surge of power and a pang of reflection. In my past life, I'd poured my family's wealth into the Scots, building them a 3-story home, securing their future, only to be betrayed. Now I was reclaiming what was ours, stripping the Scots of their greed-fueled dreams. Yet, the victory was bittersweet, tinged with the memory of my mother's lifeless body, my father's broken spirit. I straightened, pushing the pain aside. This was justice, and Ryan's final fall was coming. The crowd dispersed, buzzing with gossip, as my family prepared to leave. I glanced at the Scots gate, the posters fluttering in the breeze. Ryan thought he'd escape with Lily, leaving me to bear his family's burdens. But my uncle's trap at the credit union was closing, and the police would soon have him. The village now knew his shame, and I'd insured it. For Clara, for my parents, I'd keep fighting. The reckoning had begun, and I was just getting started. The midday sun beat down on Cheyenne Village, its heat contrasting with the cold satisfaction settling in my chest. The Scots gate, still plastered with my posters exposing Ryan's theft, stood quiet now, the crowd dispersed. My family had reclaimed the dowry trunks, and the village buzzed with Ryan Scott's betrayal scandal. But my plan wasn't finished. While fleeing with my stolen wealth, Ryan and Lily entered a trap I'd set with my uncle. The credit union in town, where Ryan would try to cash my dowry's bank certificate, was their undoing. As I stood in our courtyard, helping my mother stack the trunks, a flicker of anticipation mixed with the ache of my past life's wounds. Inside, I was still the Emily Carter who'd loved Ryan and trusted him until he shattered my world. In that life, his lies had cost me everything. My father's freedom, my mother's life, my sister Clara's safety. The memory of Clara's terrified face, sold to traffickers in my past life, haunted me, even now that she was safe, thanks to my uncle's efforts. Each step of this revenge was for them, a way to heal the scars Ryan had carved into my soul. Yet, as I prepared to face him again, a quiet fear lingered. Not of Ryan, but of the pain that resurfaced with every confrontation. I pushed it down, my resolve a shield. A shout from the street broke my thoughts. Crystal, my neighbor, ran toward us, breathless. "Emily, the police are at the Scott house. They've caught Ryan and Lily." My mother's eyes met mine, and her nod silently acknowledged my plan's success. I grabbed my shawl and followed Crystal, my heart pounding. The village streets were alive with whispers, neighbors peering from doorways as we reached the Scott's gate. 2 police officers stood there, their faces stern, addressing Mrs. Scott. "Your son, Ryan Scott, and Lily Ray were arrested at the County Credit Union for theft and fraud. You need to come with us." Mrs. Scott collapsed against the gate, her wail piercing the air. "My boy, arrested? It's a mistake!" Tina, her daughter, hovered nearby, her face pale. The crowd murmured, their earlier outrage reignited. I slipped through, my expression calm but my pulse racing. At the police station, a low brick building in town, I found Ryan and Lily in separate holding rooms, their faces a study in shock and defiance. Ryan's eyes burned when he saw me, his voice a low growl. "Emily Carter, you set me up, didn't you? You knew I'd take the dowry." I stepped closer, my voice steady, though my heart trembled with the weight of facing him. "Did I force you to steal, Ryan? Did I make you sneak off with Lily on our wedding night?" My words were sharp, but inside I felt the echo of my past life, his whispered taunts in the asylum, blaming me for Lily's death. I'd been voiceless then, drugged and broken. Now I stood tall, my pain fueling my strength. "You're a thief, Ryan, and the world knows it." I turned to the officer, my tone firm. "I want to press charges for theft and marriage fraud." Lily, in the next room, looked smaller, her bravado gone. Her eyes darted to Ryan, then to me, a flicker of fear in them. "Emily, I didn't mean for this," she stammered. "Ryan made me do it." Her lie was desperate, but I saw the truth. She'd chosen greed, just as Ryan had. The officer held a bank certificate, and my family's seal was evident. He said this was reported lost yesterday. We waited while Mr. Scott and Miss Ray tried to withdraw the funds. My uncle's plan, executed perfectly, had sealed their fate. Ryan lunged forward, his hands cuffed, his voice rising. "She framed me! Emily knew I was reborn, just like her. She planned this to ruin me." The officers exchanged glances, skeptical, but his words sent a chill down my spine. Ryan's rebirth, confirmed in the bridal chamber, was my secret too. I kept my face neutral, my voice cutting. "Reborn or not, you stole from me, Ryan. You planned to leave me with nothing. Officers, this man's lies don't change the evidence." My heart ached, not for Ryan, but for the naive girl I'd been, who'd loved him. That Emily was gone, forged anew by pain and purpose. The officers nodded, pulling Ryan back. They produced a bag of stolen jewelry. My grandmother's gold necklace, jade pendant, and ruby ring, found on Lily. My father, who'd joined us, confirmed, "Those are Emily's heirlooms." The evidence was undeniable. Lily's face crumpled, her hands shaking. I met her gaze, seeing not just greed, but a woman trapped by her choices, now facing the consequences. My anger softened, but only for a moment. She'd chosen to betray me, just as Ryan had. This was justice, for my family, for me. As the officers led Ryan and Lily to their cells, I stood with my parents, the weight of my past life's grief mingling with this victory. I'd exposed Ryan's crimes, reclaimed our wealth, and protected Clara. But the pain of his betrayal, the scars of my family's ruin, lingered like a shadow. I straightened, my mother's arm around me, and faced the future. The police would handle Ryan and Lily now, but my fight wasn't over. I'd ensure they paid, and then I'd soar beyond this village, toward a life of my own making. The police station's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows on the concrete walls. Ryan Scott and Lily Ray sat in separate holding rooms, their faces etched with desperation as the weight of their arrest sank in. I stood with my parents in the station's cramped hallway, my heart mixed with cold triumph and lingering scars from my past life. Ryan's theft of my dowry, gold bars, cash, my grandmother's jewelry, had led him straight into my trap, sprung at the county credit union. But Lily's next move, her betrayal of Ryan, would seal their fates. As I watched through the glass, I saw not just my enemies, but the unraveling of their fragile alliance. Ryan's voice echoed from his room, raw and fury. "Emily set me up! She knew I'd take the dowry, knew I was reborn like her!" His cuffs clinked as he gestured, his eyes burning into me through the window. I held his gaze, my expression unyielding, though his words stirred a flicker of unease. His rebirth, confirmed on our wedding night, was a secret we shared, a twist that made him dangerous. Yet his arrogance had blinded him, and now he faced the consequences. I turned away, focusing on Lily, whose trembling hands betrayed her fear. Lily sat hunched, her dark hair falling over her face, no longer the confident girl from the woods. The officer questioned her and held up my grandmother's jewelry, a gold necklace, jade pendant, and ruby ring, which was found hidden on her. "Miss Ray, explain this," he demanded. Lily's eyes darted to Ryan, then to me, a silent plea in them. In my past life, I'd known her only as Ryan's lost love, a ghost he blamed me for. I saw a woman trapped by her choices, her greed warring with the village's judgment. Her hesitation in the woods, her fear of ruined reputation, had hinted at her conflict, but she'd still chosen to betray me. "I didn't know it was stolen," Lily stammered, her voice breaking. "Ryan forced me to go with him. He said he'd tell everyone we'd been together if I didn't. My reputation would be ruined, and no one would marry me." Her tears fell, but her words were a calculated lie, shifting blame to Ryan. The officer raised an eyebrow, skeptical. Ryan's face paled, his voice trembling with disbelief. "Lily, you liar! We planned this together. The elopement, the dowry, it was your idea too." He lunged toward the glass, the cuffs stopping him short. I watched, a cold satisfaction mingling with the ache of my past. Lily's betrayal of Ryan was poetic, a mirror to his betrayal of me. In my first life, he'd drugged me, locked me away, and blamed me for his pain, leaving me voiceless. Lily was turning on him, her desperation stripping away the love he'd clung to across 2 lifetimes. I stepped closer to the officer, my voice firm. "Lily's lying. She knew the dowry was mine. She hid my grandmother's jewelry herself." My father nodded, confirming that those heirlooms belonged to Emily's family. The officer produced the jewelry bag, each piece glinting under the light. Lily's face crumpled, her hands covering her mouth. "I didn't mean to steal," she sobbed. "I just wanted a better life. Ryan promised we'd be rich, that I'd be his queen. But I was scared of what the village would say and of being nothing." Her words, raw and unguarded, revealed a woman caught between ambition and fear, her dreams tainted by the shame she'd tried to escape. For a moment, I saw her not as a villain, but as a product of the same village that bound women to tradition. Yet her choice to harm me erased any pity. Ryan's voice cracked, his desperation spilling over. "Officers, search her again!" She hid more jewelry, and I saw it. 2 female officers took Lily to a side room, returning with a small pouch from her clothing. Another ring, my grandmother's sapphire. The evidence was damning. Lily's sobs grew louder, but Ryan's face twisted with rage. "You snake, Lily! You'd sell me out to save yourself?" The officers silenced him, their faces grim. The truth was clear. Both were guilty, their alliance shattered by mutual betrayal. The station chief approached, his voice authoritative. "Ryan Scott, you're charged with theft and marriage fraud. Lily Ray, as an accomplice, you face theft charges. You'll both be sentenced." Ryan slumped, his fight gone, while Lily's tears soaked her blouse. The chief turned to me. "Miss Carter, your testimony and evidence were crucial. We'll ensure justice." I nodded, my heart steady but heavy. This was the justice I'd craved, but facing Ryan and Lily stirred memories of my past life's despair, my family's ruin, my brokenness. I'd fought for Clara and my parents for this moment, but the scars remained. As the officers led Ryan and Lily to their cells, my mother's arm encircled me, her warmth a reminder of what I'd protected. Lily's betrayal had exposed her weakness, just as Ryan's greed had undone him. I'd won this battle, but the war for my future was beginning. With Clara safe and my family restored, I'd face the next chapter, not as a victim, but as a woman reborn, ready to soar. The detention center's gray walls loomed as I entered the visitor's room, the air heavy with disinfectant and despair. Ryan Scott sat across from me, his hands cuffed, his once charming face haggard after weeks awaiting sentencing. His eyes, once sharp with arrogance, flickered with regret as he leaned forward. "Emily, I was wrong," he said, his voice low. "I threw away a good woman for Lily. Can you give me another chance?" I held up my Air Force acceptance letter, my voice cold. "Too late, Ryan. I'll soar for my country while you rot." His city job, arranged by my uncle, was canceled, and his greed crushed his dreams. I turned and left, his plea echoing behind me, a faint echo of the man who'd destroyed me in my past life. Outside, the sun warmed my face, a stark contrast to the shadows of my heart. Ryan's betrayal, stealing my dowry, plotting with Lily Ray, had reopened wounds from that life. My father's imprisonment, my mother's suicide, my sister Clara's sale to traffickers. Each victory in this reborn life, from exposing Ryan to securing Clara's safety, was a step toward healing. But the scars lingered, a quiet ache beneath my triumph. I pushed them aside, focusing on the path ahead. 3 years passed in a blur of sweat and steel. Air Force training was grueling, endless drills, flight simulations that pushed my body and mind to breaking. I'd wake before dawn, my muscles aching, to study aerodynamics, memorizing every gauge in the cockpit. Doubts crept in during long nights, memories of my past life's failures whispering I wasn't enough. But Clara's letters, sent from home where she thrived under my uncle's care, kept me grounded. "You're my hero, Emily," she wrote, her words a beacon. I'd grit my teeth, mastering maneuvers, proving I could fly for myself and those I'd lost. My comrades, a tight-knit squad of recruits, became my second family. We trained in the mountains, our jets slicing through clouds, the roar of engines drowning out my past. One night, our squad leader shared stories of pilots who'd sacrificed everything for their country, their courage etched in the skies. I saw my purpose in those tales, to protect and rise above Ryan's inflicted pain. Every successful landing, every perfect formation, was a defiance of the woman I'd been, the one who'd trusted him. By my second year, I was a skilled pilot, my name whispered with respect. The pinnacle came during the National Day Military Parade, defining my ascent. Selected for the Air Force formation, I was among the first female pilots to be reviewed, my jet gleaming under Beijing's autumn sky. As we soared in perfect sync, the crowd's cheers reached me even in the cockpit, a roar of pride for our nation. My parents, watching on television, wept tears of joy, their voices crackling over the phone later. "Emily, you're our star," my mother said. Clara, now a confident student, cheered loudest, her laughter a balm to my old wounds. The village of Cheyenne buzzed, boasting of their girl who'd flown on national television. Ryan, meanwhile, languished in prison, his 3-year sentence for theft a bitter contrast to my rise. Letters from his parents, read by my uncle, revealed his torment. He'd learned of my parade appearance, seen my face on newsstands, a symbol of strength. In his cell, he wept, haunted by what might have been. In his past life, he'd used my dowry to build a billion-dollar empire, a tycoon with Lily's memory as his muse. Now he was nothing, his reborn chance squandered by greed. He'd abandoned me for Lily, only to be betrayed by her, his love a lie exposed in the police station. I stood on the parade ground after the event, my uniform crisp, my chest heavy with pride and reflection. The Air Force had forged me anew, but the journey wasn't easy. I'd faced fear of crashing, of failing my family again. Each flight was a battle, my past life's pain a shadow I outran. As confirmed by my uncle's calls, Clara's safety was my anchor. She was home, studying, and her future was bright because I'd acted. My parents, restored by my success, were whole again. Yet, as I looked to the sky, I knew my fight wasn't over. Ryan's sentence would end, but my path was beginning. The village sent gifts, flowers, letters, celebrating their first female pilot. My heart swelled, but I carried my family's losses quietly. I'd flown for my father, my mother, and Clara. Ryan's regret was his punishment, but my victory was in the skies, in the life I'd built. Preparing for my next mission, I vowed to keep rising and honor those I'd saved and lost. The stars beckoned, and I was ready to answer. The Air Force Base hummed with purpose, its runways gleaming under the midday sun. I stood in my commander's office, my uniform crisp, my heart steady, as I signed a confidentiality agreement. I'd been selected for a Special Forces unit, one of the first female pilots to train in aerospace fighter operations, a mission that would take me beyond the skies, toward the stars. 3 years ago, I was Emily Carter, a village girl betrayed by Ryan Scott. I am a national hero, and my name is celebrated after the National Day Parade. But as I prepared for this new chapter, a call from the police interrupted my thoughts. Ryan, released from prison, wanted to see me one last time. I sat at the commander's desk, the phone heavy in my hand. "Do you want to see him, Carter?" my commander asked, his eyes searching mine. I shook my head, my voice firm. "No, sir. My country needs me more." The decision was easy, but it stirred a quiet ache. In my past life, Ryan's betrayal had shattered me. My father jailed, my mother dead, my sister Clara sold to traffickers. Each step of my revenge had been for them, from trapping him at the credit union to exposing his theft. Yet facing his final plea, I felt the weight of that pain, a shadow I'd carried through every flight, every triumph. I pushed it aside, my duty clearer than ever. Ryan's life, I learned later, had crumbled into tragedy. Released after 3 years for theft, he was forced to marry Lily Ray, their families demanding it to salvage their tarnished names. But their marriage was a nightmare. Lily, hardened by her year-and-a-half sentence, mocked Ryan's poverty, her dreams of wealth shattered. During a drunken argument, Ryan beat her, his rage a twisted echo of his past life's ambition. Lily retaliated with scissors, mutilating him in a brutal act of vengeance. She then left him for a local thug, who humiliated Ryan further, flaunting their affair in the Scott home. The village whispered of their ruin, a cautionary tale of greed and betrayal. Consumed by regret, Ryan spiraled. He dreamed of using my dowry to rebuild his past life's empire, a billionaire tycoon with Lily by his side. Instead, he was a broken man, his reborn chance wasted. One night, driven by despair, he bought gasoline and set fire to the thug's house, where Lily was staying. The blaze killed her and others, a horrific end to their toxic bond. Ryan confessed that his only condition was to see me. I refused, my focus on the skies, but the news stirred a final reflection. Ryan's choices, abandoning me, trusting Lily, had led him here just as mine had lifted me. In the training hangar, I prepared for my first aerospace mission. The fighter jet's sleek lines symbolized my new life. The past 3 years had been relentless, grueling simulations, high-altitude tests, moments of doubt where I feared I'd fail my family again. During a solo flight, turbulence shook my jet one night, my hands trembling on the controls. Memories of my mother's fall, my father's broken eyes, had surged, threatening to overwhelm me. But Clara's voice, in a letter read before takeoff, steadied me. "You're flying for us, Emily." I'd landed safely, stronger, my purpose clear. Clara, now thriving at university under my uncle's care, was my most significant victory. Her safety, secured in those early days of my revenge, healed the deepest wound from my past life. My parents, restored by my success, visited the base, their pride a balm to old scars. The village of Cheyenne sent letters calling me their star, but I carried my family's losses quietly. Each flight was a tribute to them, a defiance of Ryan's attempt to break us. As I climbed into the cockpit, my helmet under my arm, I felt their presence, my father's courage, my mother's sacrifice, Clara's hope. Ryan's fate, I knew, was with the law. His confession ensured a lifetime behind bars. His story is a footnote to my ascent. I didn't need to see him to know I'd won. The jet's engines roared, vibrating through me as I taxied to the runway. My past life's pain, once a weight, was now fuel, driving me upward. The tower cleared me for takeoff, and I pushed the throttle, the world blurring as I climbed. The stars loomed closer, my future boundless. I was Emily Carter, reborn not for revenge, but for a purpose. I'd soar for my family, my country, leaving Ryan's ashes far below.